Want to build your career with CMI confidence? Well, it all starts with the tools at your fingertips. CMI creates workplaces full of inspiring leaders. With its on-demand resources, network of mentors, and industry-leading accreditations. Search CMI Confidence today.
This session is recorded and will be available on the CMI website and YouTube channel. Join the conversation by using the live chat box for your questions and comments. We'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Thriving in Transition, a blueprint for change and innovation digital event. My name is Cleo Taylor, and I'm an event delivery coordinator at CMI. Don't forget to join the conversation by using the live chat box, and we'll answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A. I will now hand over to Will Cass, Events Lead at CMI West Midlands and Northwest Board, to begin today's event.
Thank you, Cleo, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining us from, to those members and non-members alike. My name is Will Cass. As Cleo said, I'm the events lead for the West Midlands Northwest Regional Board here at the Chartered Management Institute. And today's conversation is on Thriving in Transition, a blueprint for change and innovation, with our two illustrious guests, Christopher Carrick and Anne Bravietta. We chose this topic because every professional and every industry is experiencing rapid change and innovation. It's an ever-present. And when we couple this with acceleration of AI and machine learning and an increasingly volatile and unpredictable business landscape, the world of work seems to be in a permanent state of transition. Transition and change themselves are interesting. I can think of dozens of times when a new system or process or corporate restructure or shift in a business model has been rolled out to be received with less than positive response. Sometimes the reactions are subtle, lowered eyes, pursed lips, silence. Other times it's downright indignation and revolution. But can an organization afford to get change and innovation wrong? Can change-fatigued managers and leaders afford to bury their heads in the sand when organizations are in a permanent state of transition? Somebody once said that a great product or service is just a starting point of building a successful organization, and it's the ability to continuously improve, innovate, and adapt that truly sets apart the winners. That being the case, more of us are being asked to lead change, to innovate, and often lead others in those transitions. And it's when we lead change and transition that we find ourselves and our organizations ill-equipped to deal with those transitions that we are being asked to manage. Of course, there are some of us who are very well versed at handling change, and we have two of those with us who are experienced at embedding the right kind of cultures, relationships, processes, and systems into organizations that can give those organizations a competitive advantage. Those are Anne Bravietta and Christopher Carrick, who have worked tirelessly over their careers in very different paths to deliver change and innovation to a number of different organizations. We'll be hearing from Anne first. She is an agilist, project manager, and global product manager. She is currently an agile coach at HelloFresh and has previously worked at IBM for 10 years, where as a transformation agent, she implemented agile ways of working. Christopher Carrick has a diverse experience in executive management and has held several executive leadership positions for mid-market and startup businesses as a CEO, CTO, and COO. In the various roles that Christopher has taken on, he has guided companies through the waves of innovation and change, as well as managed teams to harness the power of those waves. Anne and then Chris will be invited to speak for 10 minutes. After Christopher's conversation, we will have a panel discussion followed by Q&A. We would, again, actively encourage you to ask as many questions as you have. And please remember that although we revel in the hard questions, we welcome all questions. Your participation is hugely appreciated, and your time today hugely appreciated also. So thank you so much. And with that, I'd love to pass the ball over to Anne.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Cleo, for the presentation. You can go ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit about agile practices and how unleash innovation. So thank you, Will, for the presentation. My name is Annie Braviera, and I'm currently a product and agile coach at HelloFresh, as Will said. But I have a background on product manager as well. So that's why I think it's going to make this conversation a little bit interesting. You can go next, Cleo. So as Will talked a little bit about it, today our market, it's evolving really fast, and innovation, it's no longer a buzzword, right? So markets are constantly evolving. We are constantly dealing with technological breakthroughs, and we shift our customers' demands every time. People are very more demanding all along the way, and we have like emerging trends every couple of time. We have like different and new things. So innovation, I think it's now more a survivor and growth than just a buzzword. Cleo, you can go next. And then it's a business imperative, right? Companies that don't innovate, they become obsolete and eventually they fail. So that's why I think it's so on to talk about innovation those times. You can go ahead, Cleo. So on the constant, on this context that we talk about, so companies, they need quick adaptation, right? We need to be able to follow our customer trends, follow our customer needs and expectations, and make our companies relevant on the current environment. And traditional operational systems and process usually don't bring us that. So you can go next, Cleo. Agile is one of the practices that makes organizations able or enable the environment for the organizations to be a catalyst for adaptation, right? So it's the mindset and the ability to create and respond fastly to change. And then on these turbulent environments, it emphasizes the flexibility, the collaboration, the feedback loop, which make us deliver in a faster way and in a more qualitative way as well, meeting the customer's expectation in a faster manner. You can go ahead, Cleo. So we foster this environment and create this innovative baseline for everyone by encouraging the experimentation, developing iterative, which means that we deliver a little bit of value, but a constant value to our customers. And it gives you time to listen to them back. So this feedback looping resonates with more quality and more expectations met. Adaptability and embracing change. If eventually we want to course correct, then we have these process with a less painful process for the organization, and promote collaboration among the team members. You can go, which is, I left because I want to emphasize that we foster this environment of collaboration within the organizations. And then with this, we enable like a safe space, a psychological safe environment that will make our people, like the people that we hire to do the work, the people that we want to deliver us the best way, encourage them to foster these innovations and these good ideas and bring that to the table. We have like the proper space and structure processual structure to make that happen on our events, right? So whenever people bring that ideas to the table and feel safe to continuously improve either the product or the process, then agility enables you to experiment. So you can do since we deliver like in iterative or small time boxes that we call sprint, then you can experiment during a sprint and see if it's gonna work or not. So you have this kind of flexibility on the delivery, and then this will make people feel that it's safe to innovate, to bring new ideas, to experiment new things, even on the product or the processes, right? So I think agility prepares the stage and then enable the environment for these innovations to foster. Even either when we are talking about our teams and internal innovations on how to make our processes better, or to our customer, because we are frequently listen to them and understanding if their expectations change or if they remain the same, or if they are liking what they're seeing and we can build upon it, or if we need to have a little detour and start developing or showing something new, right? You can go next, Cleo. And then I just want to summarize what I told, that we have like this iterative approach within the agile practices, that it's always focused on delivering the best value to our customers, but also focusing on how our teams are having fun and giving ideas and provide insights for our product or our internal processes to be more effective and pleasant. And then with that, we have like these feedback loops, and then constantly not only prototyping but experimenting those new ideas. We will accelerate the innovation on our organizations. We learn from failures, right? Because we iterate our failures, what happened, what we shouldn't be doing again, or what we should continue doing. And then this, I think, drives the organization to understand its stage and like delivering incrementally and being successful. I guess that's all. I know that we're gonna have a panel and some questions, but if you have any, just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so much food for thought there, particularly around how value and innovation can be delivered if we find ways to experiment and be flexible by using agile processes rather than some of the more weighty traditional operational processes many of us, including me, are used to. So thank you. So many questions I can think of that I will hold myself restrain until the appropriate time, but we would actively encourage those of you joining us today to write your questions or comments in the chat box as we go along. We'll pick those up a little bit later, because next we have Christopher Carrick, who is going to talk to us a little bit about some of the more immediate changes we're seeing in our professional environments. And so with that, I'd like to invite Christopher Carrick to the stage.
Hello, everybody. I don't see the presentation coming up. There I am. Okay. Well, William has already provided an introduction to me, so I won't go too much over this slide, other than to thank him for the opportunity to talk with everybody today, and also like to thank Anne for her presentation. I always enjoy listening to her speak about agile processes. I've been an agile practitioner and a real believer in that methodology for many, many years. But today I'm going to talk about thriving in transition, talk about the kinds of tools that are coming to help us in the very, very near future, and how we might leverage them to improve our businesses. Now, most of us probably already have document management system, a project management system, some form of knowledge management, an analytics system, accounting systems, personal productivity tools, word processors, Excel, PowerPoint, very likely specialized design and development tools. Increasingly, companies rely on tools like chat and a variety of online services. Now, the next wave of tools will include applications that provide an orchestration capability. And orchestration is all about binding together all of those applications into a cohesive whole. So you have high-level workflows that you can work through, and where appropriate, the applications that you have will be used. But also generative AI. And I think I'm going to focus mostly on generative AI today because it's, of course, an extremely hot topic. Everybody's very interested in knowing what's going on. But I'll relate it to orchestration as I go through. So first of all, what is AI? I think right now you have to think of AI as a hyper-intelligent assistant to help you with communications, to provide suggestions for the work that you're doing, to get you started on particular jobs that you're working on, something that leverages the collaborative capabilities that we have already within our businesses and combines that with many best practices. Now, in many ways, you have to think of AI in its current state as a very sophisticated version of the predictive text that we all use on our phones these days. And I guess that's a good analogy of the capabilities of AI, because we all know that typing text messages one letter, one word at a time is quite a long and arduous process. Now, with tools like predictive text, we can start typing a letter, and then based on the probability that a particular word is going to come next, based on what you've already said, systems are able to provide us with the next word, and we just have to click a single button to get on with it. So with AI, what's the myth versus the opportunity? Well, of course, everybody's worried about being replaced by machines. I personally think that's nonsense. As AI evolves, it will become a better and better assistant for us. It will help us do the jobs that we need to do. It will sit behind us and provide us with the information that we need when we need it so that we can employ that information to make good decisions. So I see it as more of an empowering technology than a replacing technology, something that's going to make us better at what we do and produce better output. Now, of course, we've heard all of this before, that there's massive change coming. Everybody's going to lose their jobs. The world is going to end. But really, it's not going to be that way. We're going to find that the people who are mostly displaced, or the work that the people who are doing that are mostly displaced, are people who are doing low-skilled jobs. And because they're low-skilled jobs, retraining is really quite straightforward. You can elevate people, bring them into new positions, give them the tools that they need, teach them how to use them, to get them doing more within a company. And it's the people you have within the company that you mostly want to guard, because, of course, 2 or 3 of the key criteria when hiring people is you want people that fit in, that fit the culture of your business, that you can work with, that you communicate well with. Skills people can acquire. So where are we with AI right now? Okay, the current phase of AI is something called generative AI. Now, generative AI is not general AI. Generative AI is that predictive capability. The AI models are built on the statistical probability that something is going to happen after something else, which is really not general AI. Now, they're saying that we're potentially 40 years away from general AI, but then they've been saying that we're 10 years away from generative AI for the last 40 years. So who can say? So AI, what's the impact to organizations? So we know that organizations are facing unprecedented change. As William pointed out, things are happening very quickly. Businesses need to adapt. They need to innovate. They need to stay with the trend or risk being left behind. Just as during the Industrial Revolution, when machines started doing a lot of the work that people were doing, the companies that weren't adopting these new techniques simply fell by the wayside. So according to a report by McKinsey, AI could potentially contribute 13 trillion to global economic output by making things easier, by making it easier and quicker for us to do things. So we need to see AI as an opportunity. It's not just a tool, it's an asset within the business. And the way AI works is it learns as it goes. It acquires knowledge and expertise as it goes. So in integrating it within your business, within your organization, using it over time, it will only become better and better. So according to Accenture, AI has the potential to increase labor productivity by as much as 40%. Go back to my last point. It will help us in what we're doing. It will act as a personal assistant that provides us with the information that we need when we need it. So the road ahead. So it's really not just about embracing new technologies, we said. It's about being more agile in the way we do our work, being able to produce more, being able to skip the mundane tasks and get something to help us along the way. Now, a good example of this is, I don't know how you guys feel, but I always find that starting something, if I have to write a document or I have to write a report or if I have to write a blog entry, getting started is often the hardest part. And I'll often procrastinate getting started until I have very little time to actually conduct the work. This is really where I've found AI incredibly helpful. It gives me that first little bit. It gives me a structure. It gives me some basic content that then I can dive into and add my own expertise and my own research. So we need to see it as this kind of tool, and we need to be using it for this kind of purpose. Now, is there any doubt that it's going to happen? Well, again, the IDC estimates the global spending on AI is expected to reach over 100 billion by 2024. So really, this technology is going to be widespread. It is becoming widespread. People are using it. So how do we overcome resistance to AI? So despite the undeniable benefits of AI, there is a certain amount of apprehension. Again, people worried about losing their jobs to this. A survey by Deloitte found that 64% of respondents cited a lack of understanding and trust as the primary barriers to AI adoption. Now, it's understood. AI has not yet reached a point where itself, it gets it right all the time. And so you really don't want to be relying on it to do that front end work, to actually do the jobs. Yeah. So I think we need to understand and appreciate that it's there to help us. Right? We need to leverage it as a tool to help us. So what do we do to prepare our teams? So to fully harness the power of AI, organizations need to cultivate a culture that fosters innovation and continuous learning, very much as Anne said. We need to change the way we think, and we need to encourage people to learn, experiment, try new things, to be better at using the tools that are at our disposal. The PwC suggests that AI could create, in fact, 2.7 million more jobs than it displaces by 2037. So elevating people, getting them to do more, using that new power to build and enhance your business is only going to create more opportunities for people. But what do we need to learn to do this? Well, building an AI-ready business. The first and foremost thing people need to do is understand the business. I've lost track of the number of times we go into a business to help somebody solve a particular problem, and we find that the top team, they just don't really understand how the business works. They understand what their objectives are, they understand what they're trying to accomplish, but they don't understand the nuts and bolts of how the business actually works. Now, if you're going to introduce a tool that's going to help you automate these things, first and foremost, you need to understand how you do things. The last thing you want to do is change your entire business to match a new tool. So you need to be able to teach the tool how you do things. Now, the next thing is to clean your data. Have a good source of clean data that you can use to feed into these systems. Now, more and more, the more applications we use and the more information we acquire, the messier things get. In most companies, their data repositories are a bit of a mess. Information is stored in all sorts of different applications in different ways, used by different people. We need to find a way to clean all of that up and make it consistent so that that knowledge and experience can be applied to AI tools. So we need to find ways to relate data. We need information interrelated. The information that exists in system A needs to be related to information that might exist in system B, and that all needs to be related to things that we're actually trying to accomplish within our business. Next thing we need to do is start small and slowly transition. We want to find small projects where we can try to leverage the technology so that we can become more comfortable with it. We need to learn how to talk to AI, which means understanding prompting and how to feed AI with enough information to give us a good response. And we need to accept that there are going to be challenges. Things are not going to all go extremely smoothly. There are going to be bumps along the road, but these are things we need to learn. I hope that helps. Let's chat if you'd like to know more. And I look forward to our panel discussion.
Perfect. Many thanks, Christopher. Really some incredible food for thought there, and outlining some of the things we see around us now and are trying to make sense as we kind of navigate the business world and the organizational world around us. So thank you very much. The next part of today's session is a panel discussion with myself, Christopher, and Anne, to really reflect on some of the questions that may have come out during both of your presentations. As we do so, we would again, of course, actively encourage those of you joining us today to leave your comments in the chat box that we'll get to during the Q&A session. And there's no particular order. I guess that's why they call this a panel discussion, but really it's a conversation between three. And if I can take facilitator's privilege and ask the first question, and it was something that came up for me when I was listening to Anne speak, but Christopher, you may have also experienced something similar. And you were talking a lot about the sort of psychologically safe environments that enable people to collaborate. And both of you made quite a lot about the importance of collaboration to be able to drive innovation and change. I wondered if there was a tension between that psychological safety, the need to collaborate, and the preference so many organizations and people have for working remotely. Does working remotely and working collaboratively towards innovation present a challenge or an opportunity? How have you handled that? Anne, would you like to go first?
Yes, I can do first. I can tell by my experience, but not. I don't think I've ever seen some studies about it. But my experience is that the office environment allows a more closeness, and then you kind of, I don't even know if this is a word, but you de-workification of a person, right? So you become more personal, you get acquaintance, you ask about kids or life or things, and then it makes you a little bit closer. So you have more intimacy and proximity to kind of foster this collaboration and like a friendship environment. But I also have worked, like, for example, at IBM, where I worked the culture was really remote. So people would do like happy hours, virtual happy hours, or gamification, and then would kind of imply the same closeness, I guess. So what I want to say is that it goes by like each person or the interest of each team, right? But you can enable like these intimacy and closeness and team bonding environment virtually as well. So it depends on how committed you are to do it. So I don't know, Chris, if you have any ideas. I think you
No,
have.
I agree with you. Particularly, I don't think it's a one approach or the other that does it. I think we have to blend working at home with working together with people within an office. And I think working from home gives us an opportunity to structure our work around our lives so that it's not always 9 to 5 between particular hours, that we can work when we're best ready to do the work. And that's, I think, particularly important these days because we tend to work more with people all around the world. And so from day to day, you often have to adjust your schedule. So rather than having to work 12 or 14 hours a day because you have to talk to people in the United States and you have to talk to people in Australia, if you were able to choose the hours you work, it better suits getting the job done. Now, to do that, the organizations need to change. People need to be managed based on objectives and measured based on their objectives rather than being lorded over for micromanaged. I'll put it that way, micromanaged into doing things in a particular way. Absolutely, the social element is important. I think people need to get to know, they need to meet with and be upfront and personal with the people that they work with. So it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mix. It needs to be a mix.
You raised an interesting point there for me, Chris, as well, when you touched on, a preference, for different management styles, and it made me, question, and then it's an open question, particularly to Anne, which is what kind of management styles are most effective in an agile environment, rather than the kind of traditional sort of top-down disciplinarian approach? Is it more open and pluralistic, which I rather suspect might be the answer, but of course I don't know because I'm not the expert. But it'd be lovely to understand a little bit more about what kind of management styles are most effective in those agile contexts.
Okay. Within agility, we do have like this servant leadership approach, because when you kind of migrate or implement the agile practices and mindset and in your company, it comes with like a package, right? So you need to have the values and the principles and then the frameworks, everything. It's I could talk for hours, but whenever you start to do like this ecosystem, that it will distribute a little better, like the accountabilities and the responsibilities. For example, the team is responsible for how we want to deliver. So we say in agility that we are cross-functional, self-managed, and with this it comes a little bit of responsibility, right? So the leader role is there to be kind of an enabler. Like, I'm gonna give you all the tools and all the necessary approaches and everything that you need for you to perform your work with quality and the best way that you can. But you also will need to deliver me whatever are our objectives or things that we committed to do with, right? So I'm gonna be a servant leader, servant in a way that servant. Instead, I'm gonna provide you everything that you need, but then you're gonna have to deliver me also whatever we are committing here to, right? So the short answer is servant leadership, and then it's one of the things that we bring along with on the table with the agility.
Perfect, thank you. Christopher, similar to your experiences?
I think one thing I'd like to add to what Anne was saying is that one of the key practices of an agile methodology, and when using Scrum, are the daily stand-ups, where people get together and they talk about, look, what are the priorities today? What do we need to be getting on with? And I think this serves two purposes. It, first of all, fosters that sense of collaboration within the organization, gets people together. And even if working in different parts of the world, in different time zones, people have an opportunity to see each other and to communicate with each other. Secondarily, it helps surface issues before they really become problems. People have an opportunity to talk about where the challenges are. And because you're communicating with people every day on the key objectives, as Anne was saying, you have an opportunity to discover where there might be issues or problems, bits that people can't figure out, and then get them to work together to resolve those problems. So I think Agile can help tremendously in both managing people and achieving those objectives in business.
And it's important to remember that a stand-up is exactly that, right? It's a short, quick stand-up meeting rather than a let's sit down for an hour and have that conversation. So I think some people joining us may be sort of recoiling at the fact that you're suggesting we spend an hour every morning talking to each other around the table, but that's not in fact how a stand-up should be managed, right?
No, in fact, our daily stand-ups generally tend to last 10 or 15 minutes, and it's just really an opportunity for people to face each other. If another meeting is required, then it's scheduled at that point, and so everybody can go into the next meeting prepared.
Fantastic. So I have one more question, and that again sort of come out of this, and I think after that we'll probably move to Q&A. And as we do, I would actively encourage those of you joining us today to continue leaving your questions. We already received a tremendous amount. Thank you so much to those who have left us some questions. We'll do our best to get to all of them. If we aren't able to, myself and my colleagues on the West Mids and Northwest Regional Board will be continuing the conversation with our panelists on our LinkedIn page, which we can give the details to at the end. But I think one of the challenges I think is everything you've said to me sounds brilliant. So I'd leave today's meeting thinking Agile sounds great and AI doesn't seem very scary. There must be some risks or challenges associated to implementing Agile work methods in the workplace. There must be some risks and challenges associated to using bringing AI into your organization. Where do people start? What are the first steps that we need to be taking to sort of start trying to harness the power of some of the approaches that you guys are both alluding to?
Anne?
I was okay.
I can go first if you prefer.
Okay.
Okay, so look, for AI, really start small and work yourself up slowly. Start to familiarize yourself with what the tools can do and start trying things out. Make some time each day to get out and try some things with it to become more familiar. Accept the fact that it's not going to be right 100% of the time. The term in AI is hallucination. AI models hallucinate all the time. They sound like they know what they're talking about, but the response they give you is really nonsense. When you're approaching building out AI, learn how to prompt properly first, learn how to communicate with the AI models, learn how to structure what you're telling it and give it the right kind of information to then provide you with the right kind of response.
Perfect, thank you. And any final points before we move on to the Q&A?
Yes, I think to put on top of what Chris said, I think it's important to iterate and experiment whatever it fits to your team, right? We do have the frameworks to support ourselves into agility, like they will teach you how to properly meet and what are the outcomes that you want to take from each one of those events or practices that we have, but then the frameworks are here because they are somehow customizable for each one of our teams, right? So we need to understand what makes sense for us considering our background. Like I think it's I always try to tell to my teams, like, have fun on the process, like iterate, communicate, say things that you don't like. We do have the retros that will give you like the opportunity to do that if you don't want to do it by yourself, but communicate with people, tell like what you want to experiment and don't be scared to try, because if we don't try, we'll never know if the thing that we're trying to do is going to be best that the current state that we have, right? So I think those things are very important at the beginning, and start small is small experiments. I think it's what makes like the practices and the ways of working so successful for the teams and for the companies.
I think in addition to what you're saying, and the nice thing about Agile is it's quite pragmatic in the way that things are done. You know, there's a methodology, but it's not fixed. And just as you iterate through delivering tasks within an Agile methodology, your approach to Agile should be iterative. Yeah, and you change as you go. It needs to fit the organization and the kinds of work that you're going to do, but it's flexible enough that it can do that.
Yes.
That might be an excellent segue into one of our questions. So firstly, thank you for giving us the opportunity to have that three-way conversation. The next part of today will continue in much the same vein, although we will be pulling questions from those who have kindly decided to spend the hour with us remotely. And so if these tools are and frameworks are flexible enough to be applied in different ways, the first question that we have here from Catherine Harris was, and I quote, "Anne was talking about learning from failure. However, in public sector, we are working with the public's money, so failure is not acceptable. What tools are recommended to manage the risk of failure?" Which is an interesting question, isn't it?
It is interesting. I don't have any previous experience though with public sector, but I'm sure that there are some processes that are like, first of all, I would map what are the very, very critical processes that you might have a lot of impact on it, right? If you fail into something, and that I'm sure that are the very critical ones and the ones that are not so critical, that you can try to experiment a little bit more. But I think most of the risk of the failure or the try to experiment a little bit more, you can have like this mindset of changing, right? If your process is currently not working well, what is not working well and how can we change that? And then we do have like some artifacts that you can map, like the risk. Some risks are willing to be taken and some not, right? So mapping those risks that you want to take and the ones that you are not willing to take, it's a good start. And then slowly implementing, right? You can start like having, for example, the stand-ups. I really like the stand-ups too, right? Or implementing like a goal that you want for your team, but either on the retrospectives that are the like my favorite events, it's where you iterate the process itself, how we are like doing our products, how we are improving the way that we deliver the services, or and then you can identify like that things that are high value, low impact, and the other things that maybe be high impact, low value. So I think it's hard to tell. And I didn't have any experience on it, but I would start like mapping maybe the risks and then the impacts and see which ones you can start slowly implementing and experimenting a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Risk management is key, and good risk management tool, I think, can really help in that regard. And a good risk management tool will sit alongside your project management tool. And then when using it, you want to think at the beginning of a project, what are the potential risks? And as Anne says, what's the impact of those risks occurring? Then you want to be to manage that all through the process. As the project progresses, you want to revisit the risk register, always look at what are new risks, what are potential problems that are coming, how do I deal with them? Now, the other tool was something that I referred to at the beginning of my talk, and that's an orchestration tool. Orchestration tools allow you to take all of the things that are done in the various applications that are used to allow people to fulfill a task or complete a job. And it draws down information and it relates that back to your project plans. And orchestration tools can make you aware when things are stepping out of line. It's especially important on large, complicated projects where there might be lots of things being done by lots of people in lots of areas. You want to know as quickly as possible where potential problems lie and where people are late. And then you want to be able to zero in on those particular issues and resolve them as individual issues. And this is where an orchestration tool can help. Something that, again, is drawing down information from the various applications that people are using and plotting them into your project plan or your workflows to make sure that things are done correctly. And that if things happen the wrong way because somebody's messed up, you have a source of information to refer back to find out exactly what went wrong, where did it go wrong, how did it go wrong, and how do I prevent it from happening again.
Fantastic. And as we move through to the next question, that it made me think a little bit about failure. So we were talking a little about project failure, and if I've understood what both of you have said today, it was the idea, the power of Agile is that we get to set a hypothesis and quickly prove and disprove it very, very quickly. So it sounds like it's almost a sandboxed failure, which we can quickly learn and iterate from. And that's the power of it. So by doing that, in fact, and taking this process, we're much less likely to fail overall anyway. Is that broadly correct, Anne?
Yes, I think one of the things in agility is that we work in small spans of time, right? So we divide our delivery into small periods of time, like fixed time box that we call sprints, and that this decreases the risk of if you do an experimentation and then it might be not the way that you want to go based on your customers or sponsors or stakeholders feedback, then you can fastly course correct for the next one, right? Because this feedback looping is constant. So you can do some experimentations, you can understand maybe I should change this or that based on what I've heard or the market trends or something that it's happening. And then you can quickly adjust that, right? You can experiment. If it doesn't work in a small period of time, you didn't spend much money. So doing the risk assessment, of course, if it doesn't have much impact, then you can go ahead, try to do it. If it succeeds, good, you can build on top. But if it was a failure, then you can roll back, right? And it was just a period, like a small period of time. And nothing major happens, like it didn't have much impact. But the good thing is that sometimes these small changes, these continuously improving things, whenever you have like this feedback or then you have like this discussion with your team, discovery, sometimes it's just a minor enhancement, but sometimes it's kind of a breakthrough idea, right? And then your customer is super ecstatic, and then you can keep building on top of it. So you have these two scenarios, and I think we always need to think positive, right? So we have the framework to enable us to go experimenting and then think that it's gonna work because you are basing yourself on like things that you are listening and understanding from the environment.
Perfect, thank you, Anne. To our next question, if I could, from Marcela Alves, perhaps a little bit more towards yourself, Christopher. How can we automate boring and repetitive tasks using AI to improve our day-to-day activities?
I want to know that too.
Yeah,
Cool. How do we automate? Okay, well, first of all, as I noted in the presentation, really, you need to understand the workflow. You need to understand the job itself to a high degree. Then you want to find tools that can help you automate the more boring and repetitive tasks. Compiling reports, for example, are a pretty easy one. You can take data from a variety of sources and compile them into a report to help you achieve what you need to achieve. And this is again where orchestration tools can help in addition to AI tools. But really, I think right now, the biggest benefit is to get you started on things. As I mentioned during the presentation, AI tools are very, very effective at giving you an outline for something, to giving you something that will start you off in the right direction, to summarize documents. There's another huge application for AI, and something AI does a very good job at. You feed AI a document and you ask an AI model to give you a summary. It will give you a 1 or 2 page summary of all of the information in that document. Now, what it won't do is tell you exactly what's in there that might apply to a particular problem, but it will give you enough to help you understand whether this is something that you should be digging into. There's a browser that I've started using called Arc Browser, and it uses AI an awful lot when looking at websites. So When you go to browse to a website, it will give you lots of background information on the website. It will summarize those pages, give you a feel for what kind of information is there, to save you time and then having to jump in and browse around to look for what you need to look for. So I think that's principally it. It's really, get you started on things. I guess the other area is, the final area is in finding ways to collect and consolidate that information to then present you. One of our own orchestration product, one thing we're doing with it is we have introduced a chat interface, but not just to allow people to talk to each other, but also to allow people to talk to the system. So you can use this interface and our AI tools to interrogate the system in natural language. Just simply, you simply ask it, look, what are the projects that are the most delayed, and it will provide an answer. What is the cost of this particular task, and it will answer. Yeah, and you can do that in a natural language, which means anybody can interact with the tool without having to know a lot about how to use the tool.
Fantastic, thank you. So the next question is a question from Lee Felvis. There is a tension in my organization between developing new ideas, processes, and AI tools whilst maintaining a business as usual. Colleagues struggle to get time and space to innovate. Any thoughts on how to resolve? Chris, you're welcome to go first. I think you just smiled there, which meant that you're happy to go first, I think.
Well, I smile because it's always a challenge. There are always it seems to be more things to do in a day than there are hours in a day. But I think key is to become better at managing our time, and to be very disciplined about how we manage our time. To leave an hour, the beginning of the day or middle of the day, end of the day, just to do that experimentation. And I think we need to view that time that we're spending doing that, not as a cost to the business, but an investment to the business. You're investing your time to learn how to do things better. Yeah? And unless we do that, then we're just never going to do things better. And you...
I was just gonna jump and say, let's implement Agile in your company.
Although, it's true with good tools, it does help you make more time to do things that are important. It will elevate us all.
No, I'm just kidding. No, because I think what you said, it's true. But just to sell my fish a little bit, I think we do have those specific spaces into the agility, right? So if you go to a retrospective, for example, you're gonna come up with some continuous improvement and innovation and ideas, and it's kind of mandatory that you have some space on the following sprint to develop some of those ideas, right? So I think it gives you the formality that it's necessary to do it. But I also have with my team some focus time and some knowledge sharing time, maybe some Friday hours we have on a couple of teams of mine that people use to just this exercise, brainstorming what we can innovate, and it doesn't have to be inside the framework, right? You can kind of create this time and allocate these hours to do it. And I think it's what Chris said, right? You need to make time and not count as kind of waste of time or not operational time, but innovation hours are actually investment time for the team to bring some ideas and improve in your ways of working or processes or products.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think we have time for two more questions, which will be from those which we received prior to going live today. The first one is from Nick Haylett, who says, in my view, people who are innovators tend to ignore rules and are individualistic. How to best manage and lead these types of people? A fair comment. Disruptors, effectively. Are you a disruptor, Christopher?
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm certainly hard to manage. I'm sure everyone who's worked with me in the past will tell you that. Look, I think you have to accept people for what they are and what they can offer the business. And I think you have to take certainly a different approach to managing innovators. You have to give them the space to do their thing, and often in their way. And again, consider that an investment to the business. But also, when it comes to measuring these people and what they're achieving, certainly set objectives for them, high-level objectives. That we need to improve this particular part of the business. Let them get on with it, and then come back with a result, and then measure them by the result. But I think that's only a good way to manage people in general, rather than managing the minute-by-minute activities of people. Right? You want to be setting good, measurable objectives for them, and then going back to them quite frequently to check their progress on achieving them. And I think this applies very largely to disruptors. Ultimately, they still need to contribute to a business, and you still need to make sure that what they're producing will accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Thank you. And any thoughts on that?
No, I'm just gonna say that I would hire Chris to do agile. You just describe a very agile process, like objective oriented, checking over time if the objective is being met. I mean,
well, look, all of our tools, our own tools that we build, and we've kind of taken in some ways agile to the next level, because we've combined agile with orchestration. As I say, I've been an agile practitioner for a very, very long time. And I think I mentioned to you during one of the shows we were at together that, it's really heartwarming to see some of these engineering techniques make their way into businesses, because they are tremendously effective techniques, and they need to be used by more people.
So thank you. Fantastic. And so we have one more question from Elizabeth Cameron. I think it will be the last one that we have today. What practical methods would you suggest to get people to be less fearful when experiencing transitions? The experience of transition, bringing people with you along that. We've talked a great deal about change and innovation, and I think the three of us seem to be very much on board. Not everyone is. How do we bring them with us?
Yeah, fear is scary. Transition change is scary. I don't think any of us really like it. But I think for me, it's about starting small and then working your way up to bigger change. Change some small things, measure its effectiveness, see how it's improving things, and then move from there. Education, you want to be training people constantly. The more knowledge and experience people have, the more they're going to bring to the business. And so you need to equip them with the knowledge that will allow them to contribute in an effective way, and feel comfortable in what they're doing and what they're contributing to the business. Does that make sense?
Certainly does to me. Anne, any thoughts?
Yes, I think so. I think starting small is very good, because I think people feel more comfortable. Like changing is discomfort. Like it's a discomfort, right? It's human, uncomfortable to change, right? We want to stay on our comfort zone. So there's a lot of resistance to change, and transitions are like big changes, right? So starting small is good, because we start to feel a little bit more comfortable whenever we feel that this is working, like we are having progress, we are seeing that the changes are valuable for us. What's like, what do we have for me, like what's going to change for me, right? And then you get used to things that are getting better, or you are seeing some results on those changes, and then you start to feel a little bit more comfortable with that. So I think the education is really the key, but also communication as well, right? You need to inform people very, very well of what is going on, and provide a safe environment for them to bring their questions, and then stress out the subject, and not only with the team itself, but also with stakeholders, with people that are involved on that, and understand, I like to do these hopes and fears workshop, because you bring people just like you make people to say what they are hoping with the change and then what they are fearing with the change, and then you can follow up on that, right? Answer questions, communicate, saying like this is your expectation and it's gonna be met or not. So I think there's no magical formula, but other than good communication and as Chris was saying, like provide the base for the change, like what we're changing, education, provided like tools, but not only the formal tools, but also like knowledge for this to happen is in a smooth and less painful way.
Thank you. And so thank you to both of you, I must say, because we're almost out of time. And so from myself and from the West Midlands and Northwest Regional Board particularly, we all wanted to extend our heartfelt thank you to both of you for sharing your expertise with us today. For those of you joining us remotely as well, thank you so much for joining and attending. We hope we've hit the mark in terms of the content that you were hoping to hear from us today. Any feedback that you have, please do let us know. We'd be more than happy to adjust or run similar type of events later. If you'd like to carry on the conversation or find out more about what we're doing in the West Mids and Northwest region, as well as more widely across the CMI, please do like and follow our LinkedIn page, where myself and my colleagues will continue the conversation, hopefully with our panelists. And with that, again, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. And I'm going to pass the ball back to Cleo, I believe.
That's it for today's session. Thank you to our host, Will, and our speakers, Christopher and Anne, for your insight and expertise. Please stay tuned to hear more about CMI membership, and thank you again for joining us.
Don't forget, as a CMI member, you can find the latest management and leadership insights at managers.org.uk. If you're not yet a member, join our community to discover CMI Confidence with on-demand resources, our network of mentors, and industry-leading accreditations.